Hello, here's an update on my OMD camera, the lens hood and the UV filter that I bought for it. When I bought the Olympus OMD, I really stretched my budget and I really wanted to protect the lens from being touched, especially by my little ones. And I couldn't really afford the $56 they asked for the lens filter at the shop where I bought the camera. So I did a bit of hunting around on eBay and just picked up this cheapy glass lens filter for about $4 delivered. And I've had it on there for a while. And it hasn't really affected my photos, and you can see that there's only 2 or 3 threads there which actually hold it on to the front of the lens. I'll use my old mechanic's trick of turning it backwards till you hear a click. Don't know if you heard that, but it clicked. You know your thread's in the right spot. And there we go, that's how I've been using it. But we still run into this problem. The camera, the way it's set up, with the half of the battery handle, it tends to fall over and rest on the lens, which I'm not overly happy about. I really would like to protect the lens. If I ever sell it down the track, I try and protect it the best I can. But I did a little bit of research, and it turns out that the UV filters for cameras were basically designed for film cameras. It was to protect the actual film itself, and it's just a selling point used by camera shops to protect your lens. And don't get me wrong, I think that's great. Kids touch it or a stick hits it or something like that. Yeah, I'd rather replace a $4 cheapy piece of glass than damage my lens. So I think it's each to their own, and whatever you go with is totally fine. That's your decision. But what I did find, I did buy this lens hood as well, and it comes with a lock ring around it. Once the lock ring is in place, there's really not much thread at all to hold it on. In fact, there's probably only 1.5 turns, and it just doesn't stay there. And I was prepared to just throw that in the bin because it only cost me a couple of dollars. And I think the idea is you screw the hood on, hold it in the right place, and back off the lock ring, and that holds up against the edge of the lens to keep it in place. But really there is hardly any thread at all on there while the lock ring's on, so I just didn't use it. So after doing a bit more research on the filters and the lens hoods, I discovered that there's actually 2 different types of lens hoods that suit this 12 to 50 mil kit lens, 52 millimeter. One is like a rectangular shape hood, and it only sort of comes out about that far. I really can't see it protecting too much from touching hands, and having a rectangle with curved corners on a round item just didn't look right to me, but that's just a personal choice. So what I decided on was, alright, I'll take the lock ring off and see whether just the hood fits on the lens. So turn it backwards again, wait for the little click. Takes a bit up. There we go. And I just tighten it up. And as it turns out, it locks into place, or as I tighten it up, it lines up with this center dot on the lens perfectly. It's just the right tension. this is what I've decided to run with. And now, when I sit it on the table, it just rests on the tip of the $4 lens hood. And it's not coming off or going anywhere, it's quite strong. And hands, or bumping it into something, is not going to actually touch the physical lens itself. So that's really what I've decided to run with. And it sits out a bit further than the rectangular shaped one. So I'm quite pleased with that. And I did a little bit of research on these lens hoods, and it's to stop that lens flare you get when the sun comes in at a certain angle and leaves lines and dots across your images. Now some people like to use that as an artistic effect, and I have myself. I love it, but not all the time. But when you cut the sun from hitting on that lens certain angles, it can also affect your colours and your contrast. And most people who use hoods say leave them on, use them all the time, except when you know you're not going to need it. So they say that it's for physical protection, and it's also from protection from the sun. But one thing I also have discovered, it's also protection from light rain. Rain, when there was no hood, if it came in on an angle, it would smear across the lens, and your photos, you'd end up it's like looking through a windscreen that's got rain on it, and it can affect your photos. So I've found that it actually stops a few drops of rain, and if you just walk around with it angled down while it's raining, it will not get onto the lens. So that's what I've decided to run with. I'm happy with it the way it's set up. The cheap lens filter did its job to start with until I'd done some research, and I've tossed the ring, and I'm just going to stick with this for now. So hopefully that's been informative to you. Just one last little thing, the original lens cap is a little bit tricky to fit in. It's just a little bit fiddly to get your fingers in the right spot and to get it off. So I've actually ordered a 52mm with the internal pinch, 52mm lens cap, where you can pinch it internally, and like the Sigma ones, and so you can get it off and get it back on. So I'm going to stick with that for the moment, and I'm happy with the protection that it offers. If you like your filters, fantastic. I prefer to stick with this for now, and fingers crossed I'll never touch the lens or damage it, and I'll just use a lens cleaning kit to keep that in the best condition that I can. So hopefully you've enjoyed this video. Give it a like. I haven't got any likes yet, but a lot of people have watched some of them, and leave any comments if you've got any ideas that might help me or might help other people who have watched this video. So cheers.